Craig Kelly quits the Liberal Party. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.heise here and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee, let's look at this article written by Samantha Maiden from news.com.au. Controversial MP Craig Kelly has quit the Liberal Party. Outspoken MP Craig Kelly has quit the Liberal Party and will join the crossbench after a well-publicised stoush with the PM. Now, if you're a fan of Craig, if you're not, that's fine. He had issues that he was raising, particularly about alternative treatments for COVID. I mean, this is Parliament. You would expect our political members to discuss and debate. It's not meant to be a winner-take-all situation. There's meant to be a platform where they can raise points and discuss them. We're not living in a dictatorship, guys. At least not yet. Unless you're living in Danistan. But still, Liberal MP Craig Kelly has quit the party and will sit on the crossbench. The controversial MP handed his resignation letter to Prime Minister Scott Morrison during today's party room meeting. Mr. Kelly's decision means the government loses its one-seat majority on the floor of the House of Reps, but he is guaranteeing confidence and supply, which means in theory he won't trigger an early election. I wonder what would happen if we had an early election now. Do you reckon Albanese could get up? Be interesting. Mr. Kelly's decision means the government... I've already read that. I have the greatest respect for Scott Morrison, he told Sky News. I hope he goes on to be one of our longest serving and greatest prime ministers. I'll support the government, naturally of course, on all manners of supply and confidence. Mr. Kelly said it was rubbish to suggest he was an anti-vaxxer. I've been labelled an anti-vaxxer, which is just slanderous smear, he said. I mean, this is the thing. You've got people that are critical of the vaccination and maybe want to make sure that it's voluntary and people have the right to choose. Or maybe because we're learning about some of the medical disasters that have happened from experts in the past that you want to take your time. I mean, or maybe you are, you're at the age demo and you've got maybe the body weight and other comorbidities that don't exist in you. You maybe are thinking, you know what, it's a bit of effort. There needs to be more talk of other ways to improve your capacity to deal with this. Because here's a little surprise, everyone. Humanity has kind of survived these illnesses in the past. We've survived them. So there are ways to do it. And there needs to the number one thing is obesity. And Craig's probably not a good example of this. Looking at him, he's an older guy. He's got too much weight on him. He'd be at a high risk. Obesity is a significant. It significantly increases your chance of being hospitalized if you catch COVID. I've got another article I want to look at it that discusses that. But is that ever mentioned anywhere in the news? And that's something everyone can take care of, guys. You can take steps to improve your quality of life from one day to the next. And if that would be one way to, mitigate the potential negative implications of this illness, shouldn't we be talking about that? And it has other widespread consequences too. It would reduce the costs of Medicare if everyone in Australia suddenly got healthier. But, we can't talk about that, can we? Mr. Kelly could end up switching parties to the Nationals after the former leader, Barnaby Joyce, ducked out of the joint coalition party room to chase Mr. Kelly after his announcement. I wouldn't be surprised. National Senator Matt Canavan told news.com.au that he had urged Mr. Kelly to join the Nationals. I did say to him that I'd already wanted him to join, Senator Canavan said. I'm absolutely serious. As Mr. Kelly remained locked in his office, One Nation Senator Malcolm Roberts also turned up to speak to him, but was unable to enter the office as the ex-Liberal was conducting a television interview. Oh, there you go. Roberts is trying to get him on One Nation. In a press conference, Mr. Morrison said there would be no changes as a result of Mr. Kelly's decision, saying the resignation, which he didn't know about in advance, followed on from conversations he'd had with Mr. Kelly in recent weeks. We had a discussion a couple of weeks ago. As you'll be aware, the PM said, I set out some very clear standards and he made some commitments that I expected to be followed through on. He no longer felt that he could meet those commitments, but I can tell you my standards don't change. He believed the best way for him to proceed was to remove himself from the party room and provide the otherwise support to the government so it could continue to function as it so successfully has, which he says is something he remains committed to. So I would expect him to conduct himself in that way. Mr. Kelly was suspended from Facebook last week after he shared a series of COVID-related posts to his official Facebook page, which has more than 80,000 followers. The 5 posts, which got him banned, featured unproven claims about hydrochloroquine by Professor Dolores Cahill, a profile of Professor Thomas Borudi in the Spectator Australia, which included the promotion of ivermectin to treat the pandemic, and claims by pathologist Roger Hodkinson that masks are useless for children and paper and fabric are simply virtual signaling. Well, I mean, kids are gonna be messy, okay? They're gonna get dirt everywhere. Kids are messy always, unless you keep them isolated in a bloody room. When they're out there playing in the garden, climbing trees, rolling on the grass, you gotta hose them off every night. But I guess, that's only if you have children that have kind of normal playing lives. Neither of the drugs are recommended by health authorities in Australia to treat the pandemic outside of clinical trials. So what? He's just making suggestions. This is our politicians. You want to have everything on the table, don't you? Okay, well, ivermectin, yeah, okay, treated mice and lice. Okay, yeah. Everyone knows about these. Everyone knows about these. It is being trialled on Australian health workers to assess whether it can protect them from being infected. Mr. Kelly told The Australian that the ban was a dark day for freedom of speech, and that he will continue to support earlier treatment drug options even if they are not backed by chief medical officers. Well, yeah, because the chief medical officers won't back it until they have the trials. There's a lot of evidence out there that still needs to be checked. He should be talking about, losing weight, mate. That's going to have a big impact. I hope this Facebook ban is temporary. They went through thousands of my posts and found only 5 that led to the ban, he said. I support the government message on vaccinations. I'm advocating for treatment in concert with vaccinations. 3 of the posts that were banned weren't even my opinions. They were quotes of highly credentialed scientists. You might not agree with them, but the public have a right to know about these scientists' views, and people can rebut them. Not in this world anymore. Not in this way. There's only meant to be one message from the party. In a statement, a Facebook spokeswoman said, "We don't allow anyone to share misinformation about the pandemic that could lead to imminent physical harm." What? So taking something you'd use for malaria, it won't lead to harm? Come on. See, guys, when I was defending the government of Facebook against the Australian government, essentially extorting them, I'm not a fan of them. Okay, don't get me wrong. They'll allow people to show footage of committing violent crimes and live streaming it. But then a politician, an elected representative of Australia trying to engage in debate, that's concerning. We have clear policies against this type of content, and we'll remove it when we become aware of it. Mr. Kelly strenuously denied he's an anti-vaxxer despite peddling a range of alternative treatments on his popular Facebook. That's got nothing to do with the vaccination. If you can't debate it, if people get black banned and cancelled, it is a very sad day for democracy. His post caused a stir in Parliament early this month, particularly after he sat down for an interview with celebrity chef turned denier Evans. Mr. Kelly refused to follow government health advice. Has been a problem for the PM, who earlier this month dragged the rogue MP into his office for a dressing down. This meeting came after Mr. Kelly and Labour MP Tanya Plibersek had a public confrontation over the spread of misinformation in parliamentary corridor. Well, Plibersek is a proponent of the gender wage gap, so some of the fundamental bases of her political opinion are based on misinformation. Mr. Morrison is understood to have made it very clear he cannot support Mr. Kelly's views nor his action, and has asked him to refrain from airing those views that are contrary to the accepted medical advice. The Prime Minister bluntly told him that his actions were negatively impacting the government's $6 billion vaccine strategy. Afterwards, Mr. Kelly put out a statement claiming to support the government's rollout but almost immediately began posting his alternative views again, leading to the MP getting savaged by Labour in question time. It's not... Okay, there's one fundamental thing here Samantha's gotten wrong, the journalist that's writing this, which I'm not surprised. He's not suggesting it as an alternative to the vaccination. He's suggesting it as a companion to it. Because we're not instantly going to be magically vaccinated, are we? People are still going to be getting this illness while the rollout happens. And if you've got cheap, low-cost drugs that can either mitigate the symptoms or can potentially help people overcome this, he's putting things forward to suggest we look at it. Does that seem strange? There you go. This is what happens when your husband's a drug dealer, isn't it? Or alleged drug dealer, wasn't it? Was that him? We'll have to see. What do you think, guys? You surprised Kelly's quit? Do you agree with his opinions? Or do you think he's just a nutter? Or is it interesting how the media has portrayed him? Wonder if he'll hit to the Nationals or go to One Nation? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. Thank you all for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and enjoy the content I create here, there are a few ways you can support us. You can join the channel on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us using our affiliate links from Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or AussieBroadband. You can buy merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Take care. I'll see you next time.